me start this off by saying that it is imperative that you stay off the dark web. No matter what anyone tells you, no good can come from using it, and I'm about to tell you why. I was 15 at the time. I'd come home from school on a Friday afternoon, ready to relax, kick back, and enjoy the short break. I had started using code about a year prior, nothing too fancy, just basic Python, Java, HTTPS, etc., and was practicing it daily. Now, I had known about the dark web before this took place. I would sometimes buy weed off of it, but that was the extent of it. This particular day, however, I decided to venture further and really take a look at the dark web. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the iceberg diagram representing the internet's content. For those who don't know, the surface web contains about 10% of the internet's content, while the deep and dark web take up the other 90%. I was ready to see what it really held. I heard stories about what goes down on the deep web: murder, inhumane torture, CP, etc. But I didn't really believe that they were all legit, so I hopped on Tor and began to see what I could dig up. I started off by going on the hidden wiki and browsing through various websites, most of which contain illegal things such as drugs, hackers, and hitmen for hire, and lots of CP. I clicked on a random forum link, which took about a minute to load. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was a forum where people could pick a topic they wanted to talk about, such as politics, dealing with mental health, etc. I noticed one of the topics was a pedo forum, and I don't want to even go into the detail what I saw on there. There was one particular one that caught my eye. The link was in all red while the rest were all black. It said, "Not for the weak, enter at your own risk." Curious as to what this was, I click on the link, and it brought me to a forum that had only one link on the whole page. I clicked on the link, and it brought me to a chat room. I realized that nobody was saying anything in it, only sending links. This set off alarm bells in my head, because I had an idea of what was on these links. I wish I had listened to my gut feeling, which was telling me to close out while you still can. However, the ignorant, curious teen took over me, and I started setting up some protection for myself, using the code I had learned. I later realized this amateur coding I did would not protect me from these advanced people with malicious intent. I clicked on a random link, and a page loaded surprisingly fast. It looked to be another chat room. I went to type hello or something, but it would not let me. I sighed and began moving my mouse to go to the previous page when a noise went off. I had received the chat. The message said, "Hello, new user. I see you have found my site. Would you like to continue?" I tried typing again, but I still couldn't. The next message sent chills down my back, and my hands are shaking just recalling it. It read, "No, son, not the keyboard." I tried turning off my computer, but of course nothing worked. Another message popped up saying, "I guess I'll take that as a no." The screen suddenly changed, and a video began playing. It was a black screen, but I could hear a deep male say, "Unfortunately for you, you do not have a choice." I grabbed a sticky note and put it over my webcam, and the voice on the screen said, "Ah, so we're playing games now, huh?" The video began to change, and I realized the man was taking his hand off the camera. He was a short man, maybe 5'11", but that brought me no comfort. He held up a knife and said, "Name any body part." I then for the first time noticed a cloth in the corner of the room, covering something up, which I could only assume to be a body. I had had enough. I unplugged my computer and lay on the floor panting for hours until I could finally get up. I now suffer from anxiety and won't touch a computer unless I have to. Just be safe out there, guys. My worst experience on Tor, stumbling upon a horrific, sickening page called Human Experiments. I don't remember where I found it. It was buried deep in a link archive page. The home page described the content on the site. I was distraught at what I was reading. It said in a red, bloody font, "The experiments conducted for this website are to prove that not all humans are born equal. The people chosen to be experimented on were often homeless, but also the unfortunate souls who happen to get caught by these sick fucks. These so-called experiments range from starvation to water restriction, reactions to extreme pain and torture, infections and diseases, and even infant tolerances to x-rays, pain, and heat." I had seen all those horrific shock videos like Three Guys, One Hammer, so I thought I was going to be prepared for what I was going to see, but I wasn't. I had the mistake of clicking on the first link to the experiment photos. I honestly had to retain the urge to puke. I don't even want to describe what I saw, but I'll just say there were innocent victims, people, just like you and me, going through horrible, horrible things that nobody should ever go through. Against my better judgment, I scrolled the entire page, and it only got worse. Pretty soon, a whole section dedicated to infants and toddlers came up. I had somehow made it to the bottom of the page, and then a little box popped up on the screen. I didn't know what it was until a line of text popped up. The text said, "Did you enjoy the site?" I realized it was a chat box. I typed, "Who is this?" The stranger promptly replied, evading my question by saying, "What was your favorite part of the site?" I asked the same question again. This time he actually acknowledged my question and said that he was the owner of the site. I told him that this was sick and inhumane and that I would report the site immediately. That was my biggest mistake, telling him that, because after a short pause, he said, I see your name is Michael, and you live in Massachusetts." He was right, but instead of clicking out of that browser right away, I typed, "No, you're wrong." About 10 seconds later, he typed something that made my heart shrivel up, and that was my address, my complete, correct home address. His final words were, "Have a nice day." I closed the browser and slammed my laptop shut. I called the police first thing before telling my parents. When the cops got to our house, I explained everything to everyone at once. They wanted to see my computer since I didn't remember the link to the website. Unfortunately, the Tor browser doesn't save your browsing history, so I couldn't even help them in shutting down this website. The cops told us that it was true, that we should find another place to stay as soon as possible. Thankfully, this was around the time we were looking to move away anyway. I couldn't believe how fast my parents were able to sell the house and find another. I apologized to them every day for a month after this happened. I hated to have to make them go through this all. I'd like to think that the guy in the chat was just bluffing, but I couldn't take the chance. I don't think anyone should look into the deep web, as there is no good to come of it. I was on the deep web after hearing all the craze about it. I had to go onto Reddit to get the really interesting links. Most of the links just took you to pages that would list hundreds of other pages. At first, it just seemed like an endless cycle of pointless pages, until I somehow ended up on a very dark-themed website. I don't mean it was a horror-themed scary story website. I mean the banner had the disgusting and disturbing picture of what looked like a girl no older than 12, blindfolded with slits in her mouth and bruises all over her face. I never knew how dark the internet could get, but I knew right after seeing that picture that it could only get worse on that website. I could have and should have just closed the browser or clicked the back button then and there, but something possessed me to click through the forums. On each and every forum post, they were all littered with gut-wrenching, brutal, and sadistic pictures of children, from babies and toddlers all the way up to a 16-year-old girl, all being tortured. I don't even want to describe what I saw, but I want you to understand the true horrors that go on in the deep web and in this world. One post was titled, "Follow 10-year-old home successfully knocked out and brought back. I dared click on it and saw pictures of an innocent 10-year-old boy who was originally on his way home from school, tied up to a chair, attached to some kind of torture machine that looked like it belonged in the Saw movies. I scrolled down, and the pictures got worse. The device on his chair started to carve into his wrists. I couldn't even finish that post. I had to click back. I found another shocking post with a link to a video of a newborn child being dipped into a pot of boiling water. I could only watch about 10 seconds before closing the video. I would describe more, but I don't want to share any more of it for your own sake. However, the worst part that still kills me knowing this is that I used to be a camp counselor for about 4 years, and I had dealt with hundreds of kids. A few years back, there was the very upsetting news that one of the kids attending the camp, one of the kids in my group, had gone missing. That was many years ago, and everyone since has just given her up for dead. That was all but confirmed when I clicked on one certain post. There was the dead body of an 8-year-old girl, almost completely mutilated, but face still recognizable. I instantly recognized the face of the girl who'd gone missing so long ago. I literally threw up because of the horror I was feeling. I called the police and told them I needed the cops right away. They showed up quickly and I showed them the screen and then the picture of the missing child. They gave their own signs of disgust before giving me a lecture about how I went about reporting this wrong, that I shouldn't have called the cops or whatever. But they still took down the URL and thanked me for finding this. It took much longer than I hoped for the website to finally come down, but I have no idea if they ever caught the sick fuck that did that, or anybody who posted anything on this forum for that matter.